What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and we are finally here. It is draft day. The first round of the draft is later on tonight, and it is an incredible time in the NFL where all 32 teams feel like they are going to get better. And I know our new regime with Aaron Glenn and Darren Moji, they have put in a ton of work. They are building a kind of young, aggressive, competitive culture, and we are going to get better with who we believe will be starters for us for the next decade if we get it right. All right. And if you've been watching Jets Latest, you know where I think we're going to go. I've been debunking some of the rumors around a quarterback at number 7 or trading Brees Hall, but we find out what was smokescreen and what was real starting in just about 12 hours, if not even sooner. And one of the ways I have been looking at this to kind of confirm what I believe, confirm what we've seen in top 30 visits, in beat reporters and all that, is the odds. And the odds across the sportsbook have started to coalesce around what we think could be a sequence for the top 10. And quite frankly, it would go well for the Jets, okay? If that's the way it goes down, we would be able to have most of our targets still available, including the guy I want, who you know is the offensive lineman out of Missouri, Armand Membu. Check this out. Right now, Tennessee is pretty much a lock to go with Cam Ward, the quarterback out of Miami. They've informed him, they canceled meetings, things of that nature, and the odds were suggested at minus 20,000, for goodness sakes. If you think they're going elsewhere, please bet on it, because if you're right, you will win some shekels. At 2 and 3, the odds have the Browns going with Travis Hunter, the two-way stud Heisman Trophy winner out of Colorado, and the Giants taking Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State. These are both teams, Cleveland and the Giants, who have kind of passed on the idea of drafting a quarterback, whether that's Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, or otherwise, and they brought in veterans. In Cleveland, they've got Flacco, they've got Pickett. With the Giants, they've got Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. They may be looking for the 2026 quarterback class, which we have profiled here on Jets Latest. At number 4, I think the Pats look to protect their young quarterback Drake May. Will Campbell, as the number 1 offensive lineman on the board out of LSU, is now minus 330 to be the pick for the Pats at number 4. At Jacksonville, number 5, it's interesting. Odds suggest Mason Graham, the defensive lineman out of Michigan. Remember, Jacksonville was a bottom 5 defense in a lot of metrics, although there are some people starting to think that Ashton Jeanty could go as high as 5. I don't think that's going to happen because ETN and Bigsby are there and defense is the bigger need. Vegas, however, could get Ashton Jeanty to add to that running back room, be a stud running back for them, with new head coach Pete Carroll coming in, having that run identity. Then it is us. And at number 7 overall, the favorite at plus 150 is the guy I have been talking about, Armand Membu, to be that pick. Tyler Warren is the second choice. Remember, I have talked about why I understand Warren passing on Bowers last year, this kind of skill set that he has, the threat that he is, the Heisman Trophy votes that he got as a tight end, but I think there's other ways to get the tight end position. Carolina could go defense, Jalen Walker, out of Georgia, a stud. Shedeur Sanders, maybe with the Saints at number 9. The odds suggest that, especially with the injury to Derek Carr, and then Tyler Warren rounding out the top 10 maybe with the Chicago Bears. So I think that's what the odds say, and they kind of confirm what we have been talking about in terms of how the draft board could fall, and it could fall favorably for the Jets. Now, Darren Moji and the staff, they've done all that prep work, and they have the pivot points if need be. They have options A, B, C, D, and E probably, regardless of how it falls. Here are more odds that actually suggest what we are saying. There are odds not only for specific players, but for what position teams will take. And if you look at the Jets, the priority positions are ones we have talked about here. Offensive line is the favorite, okay? Now, this could be Membu if Campbell goes. This could be Campbell if Membu goes. If both of them go, maybe they still double tap this anyway and go with a guy like Kelvin Banks out of Texas, who we have talked about. Tight end is the second choice at plus 250. That's really due to all the buzz around Warren, and mostly I think is a reaction to the idea that they maybe were targeting but passed or got sniped on Brock Bowers last year. And then defensive line is that third choice at 5-1. I don't think they go D lineman unless, of course, somehow Mason Graham is the guy that falls and he's sitting there because all the old linemen got taken. Maybe that's the reason, okay? But I do think it confirms one of the things we've been saying on Jets Latest, the idea that D-line is a priority area, is somewhere where we are going to target in the draft. Remember, I thought they're going to get Tyleik Williams potentially out of Ohio State in round 2. So D-line, and then a big drop, right? Better than, 14-1 or worse for things like quarterback, linebacker, D-back, wide receiver. At one point, I thought maybe Tet McMillan could have been that pick, but the Jets have solidified their wide receiver room, bringing in Tyler Johnson, bringing in Josh Reynolds, re-signing and restructuring Alan Lazard. You have Corley there from last year. You have Garrett Wilson, the alpha. So I don't think wide receiver is really that much of an add. And then you see on and on where it can go, like running back. I don't think they're getting Genty. There was these rumors about trading Breece Hall, that sort of thing. But the odds have to address everything. But O-line really seems to be the place. Armand Membu really seems to be the guy, with the idea of the plan B, if you will, in my opinion at least, being Tyler Warren, the Heisman finalist or Heisman contender at the tight end position from Penn State. But here's the deal, okay? Tight end clearly seems to be a position of need. Remember, they were active in free agency with kind of lower level things. They went ahead and they signed Stone Smart, which I think was a nice little signing. A guy has upside, kind of fitting the mold of what the Jets were doing in free agency, getting young guys, getting guys who flashed upside, getting guys who are coachable, and that continues to be what the move is. Now, I do think, and I have thought, that the Jets could add a tight end in the draft. I didn't think they were going to do it at number 7. And in the first round, Warren's going to go. Colston Loveland out of Michigan is going to go. On episodes of Jets Latest, I've highlighted guys like Mason Taylor out of LSU. Remember, he is the son of Jason Taylor, Hall of Fame edge rusher, the nephew of Zach Thomas, Hall of Fame middle linebacker, right? So the pedigree was there. He had LSU records for tight ends, only dropped 1 ball. So I think he could be a target depending on the supply and demand, how the board falls. But there's been a lot of buzz about Mason Taylor moving up. So I don't know if he's going to be available at a spot where the Jets are willing to pull the trigger on tight end. We've also talked about Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, setting Oregon records over the last couple of years with 80 plus catches, 1,000 plus yards. Tight end coach was at the Oregon Pro Day, which was a signal that they were at least intrigued by Ferguson. There's also Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, who some people have had mocked to the Jets in the 3rd round at number 73. But I do want to say also that there have been a lot of rumors around tight ends in the league that could be available via trade. And we have talked about those over the last days and weeks here on Jets Latest. Guys like Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons, a former top 5 pick, still only 24, 25 years old, kind of fits the mold of what the Jets could be looking for if the Falcons want to move him. And there's buzz that the Falcons are not enamored with Kyle Pitts. I don't think that's the guy. I think another 2 that could be had via trade that are more appealing to me are, 1, Baltimore Ravens tight end Mark Andrews. Remember, he is approaching 30. He had a disappointing end to the season in that playoff game for the Ravens with the fumble, with the 2-point conversion drop. But he led tight ends with 11 touchdowns last year. He's been a security blanket for Lamar Jackson for a long time, and maybe he could be a security blanket for another dual-threat quarterback in Justin Fields here with the green and white. And then there's Dallas Goedert, who I talked about on a previous episode earlier this week. The Eagles seem to be ready to move on from Goddard because he's entering the last year of his deal. He is a guy with a great kind of catch percentage. He catches 80% of the targets that have been there, and he has been a kind of, solid to good tight end in this league for a long time with Philadelphia, and I think there's room for him to grow, especially even in the red zone where Philly uses the tush push, the brotherly shove so often. So more touchdowns could be in the offing if Dallas Goedert gets away from Philly and the tush push, the brotherly shove. And, they got Saquon, they got A.J. Brown, they got Devontae Smith, right? He could be a little bit higher up on the pecking order if that's how the Jets decide to go. So I think the Jets have a ton of flexibility here. They're not going to have to force Tyler Warren at number 7. And remember also, they have Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State, was Justin Fields' tight end with the Buckeyes, and they added Stone Smart as well. So again, the Jets have a ton of flexibility. I'm not saying the tight end is not a need area. You see it as the second choice on the draft board. I just think they're not going to spend that level of draft capital, number 7 overall, at tight end. And they have organized themselves, cap space, draft picks, even kind of the backup plans with Ruckert and Smart to be able to be flexible with how they go ahead and complete the tight end room. So that's how I think they're going to do it. I think they have options, but the absolute priority right now here on draft night is to go ahead and get that piece. I think it's going to be Membu, one bookend tackle. You put him with Fashanu, other bookend tackle of the first round last year, and what is an already solid interior offensive line with Tippmann, with Simpson, and with AVT. The offensive line is king, especially if you listen to Moji and Glenn talking about how they want to be physical, right? Having that offensive line being solid opens up holes for Breece Hall, protects Justin Fields, makes everything look a little bit better. I think that's where we go tonight. Offensive lineman Armand Membu out of Missouri, 3 sacks in 3 years, 90 PFF grade, zooming up draft boards, had a great combine, and I think he is going to be the newest member of the JETS Jets, and is going to hear his name called at around 8:30 p.m. tonight. We will be here tomorrow to talk about whoever it is the Jets draft. Maybe it's Membu, and you're going to see me celebrating, doing an I told you so. Maybe it's Campbell because Membu went off the board. Maybe they do take Tyler Warren, and we will have to talk about that and see what offensive linemen are still left because they have to address right tackle at some point. And we will also talk about round 1 of the NFL draft. Did Jackson Dart go? Where did Shedeur Sanders go? Where did Ashton Genty go? We'll talk about all of that and then reset the deck for rounds 2 and 3, where the Jets at number 42 and 73, I think, are going to add 2 more starters. That is why it is such an exciting time for the Green and White, head coach Aaron Glenn, GM Darren Moji, and you, the Jet fan. So watch this video, like this video, subscribe to Jets Latest, because even after the draft, we are going to continue to talk about what the Jets are going to do as we get into the offseason workouts, as we get into training camp, and we get into a huge season of a new era for the Jets fan. I even broke out my lucky hoodie. I get all the comments about the Wu-Tang hoodies. I even broke out my BX represent for the New York Jets right here. So that's another episode. Remember, if you want to hear more from me, I'm the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM, channel number 87. We'll be breaking down all of the draft, its implications for things like fantasy football, futures bets in the NFL. We're also talking Major League Baseball. We're also talking NBA playoffs, anything to help you win your leagues and win that cash. Tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. We will be back tomorrow talking about what the Jets did at number 7 overall right here on Jets Latest. We'll see you tomorrow.